What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Dylan Talks Tone. Welcome to the Just Gonna Say It podcast. It is Tuesday afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We do this every week. Like always, our live streams are ad-free. So if you want to support the channel, you can comment, you can chat, you can use a super chat, you can use some of the links in the description below that have affiliate attached to them that supports the channel as well. And of course, DylanTalksTone.com. We don't really have sponsors, but you know, those companies down there, as well as DylanTalksTone.com, make it possible for us to do this. So I hope everybody's having a good week. Do you get any time off? I feel like I've been working my butt off because shipping has been slow in and out, and days off from shipping and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's been kind of a thing. Went to the UPS store today, closed. Yeah, just one of those deals. So I hope everybody's having a good week, and I hope you all are having I hope you enjoy your day off tomorrow, and maybe you have some time off tonight. Getting ready to buy one of your P90 pickups for my Epiphone inspired by Gibson Les Paul Jr. Oh, sweet, dude. Cool. That's really awesome. That is very exciting. That would be my number one choice of a guitar, obviously, as well as, super cool. All right. Well, hey, this is going to be a kind of a fun one. I don't even remember what we called this thing. Don't be that guy or whatever. And I put a grumpy face. I'll tell you where the inspiration for this came from. And as we get into this, of course, there's going to be people that are very triggered by anything that they think might be me saying negative things, but that's not why I'm doing this. I got the idea for this from a knife channel that I follow. And his thumbnail says 10 signs you might be a knife douche, which I think is hilarious. And I'm like, and so I watched his video and I was like, man, a lot of that stuff kind of crosses over to being a guitar douche, really. And I was like, that's a little negative. We don't want to go that far, but I think there's a lot of things that we fall in the habit of being a part of, jumping on various. You having a hard time? No. Our puppy's a little sore today for some reason. And so anyway, I think there's stuff that guitar players need to stop doing and stop talking about. Don't be this guy. And as we go through here, you may be triggered by something. You may be like, hey, wait a minute, that's me. You're a jerk for bringing this up. That's not the motivation at all. The motivation is to bring the community, to move the community forward. And I think there's a lot of things that we can just stop doing and turn around how we think about stuff. Now, that being said, you can do whatever you want. I'm not telling you not to. I'm telling you that there is a way to make a positive contribution to life. And so I'm not telling you to stop. I'm not telling you to do anything. It's a choice, right? So in my next comment section, if you're a guitar douche, then I know you made that choice. That's okay. That's on you. No big deal. But I think this is going to be kind of a fun conversation. So I'm just going to go through a few of these things in a list. The puppy has brought us the most crinkliest, newest, loudest toy possible. Okay, so number one. Actually, this is number 0 because I thought of this afterwards and I put it in front of everything else. The language police. That thing is really loud. It's pretty awesome. The language police. So, I'm from the United States, just so you know. So I say SOLDER. solder. It's just how we talk here. It's what we say. Okay. We also use the imperial system, not the metric system, which, to be honest with you, I would rather use the metric system under most circumstances, except I like using thousandths of an inch. It's much more accurate, in my opinion, than whatever the little micromillimeter thing is. I'm just not used to that, but I 100% agree that anything over 1 inch, I wish we would use the metric system. I really do. That being said, we don't. So if I say 5/64 of an inch and I accidentally or on purpose don't say 3.5 to 5 millimeters, let it go. Let it go. And what you could do is you could get in the comments and be like, hey man, you said 5/64, just so you know that's this for everybody else. Who cares? Right? Like who cares about that? That's a good thing to do. Yeah, definitely the language police are pretty funny. The things they get worked up over. I was saying yesterday in a video, I said, oh man, this guitar is so sick. And they're like, that is a misuse of the English language. I'm like, consider me a language abuser then. You know what I mean? You know? I think if we were all to talk very properly all the time, it would be very boring, in my opinion. That is my opinion. Okay, so this is the official number 1. I just slipped that in there because that was something that popped in my head afterwards. So this is actually number 1 on the list. The folks who always say, use your guitar the way it was intended, or who make fun of people who have guitars that are just wall art. It's not your guitar. I don't understand why you would choose that for other people. A PRS, private stock, whatever, library, whatever they call that thing. I don't have one of those. I can't afford one, but they're cool. Cool stuff's cool. And it's really fun to see cool things, right? I think the guitar industry is we'll get into this in another section of this later, but the guitar industry is a weird one where it's like guitar players don't want to see cool stuff. They only want to see their stuff. And if they don't have expensive stuff or cool stuff, they don't care. They don't want to see anything cool. And for some reason, they feel like it's important to make sure that they know how something is actually supposed to be used instead of just allowing that person to enjoy however they want to use it. So here would be my suggestion. Instead of trying to choose how somebody else should use their thing that they paid their own money for, and it's not yours, so you have no right to say anything about it, just tell us how you like using yours. I want to know what you like. I don't care that you don't like what I like. I just want to know what you like. If you don't like the color blue, I don't care about that. Tell me that you like the color red and why, or whatever color it is. You know what I mean? And I think that's super fun. So be super proactive about like what you like. When you die, are you going to be known for what you like or what you didn't like? Good question. Number 2, anger over or other, other spewed vitriol over expensive things. This is a big one. It kind of relates to the last one, or it's an extension of the last one. It's weird how in the guitar industry, again, I don't, did you not, if you're this person, did you not have like, Raquel Welch on your wall when you were a kid? Or did you not have Lamborghini Countach or a Porsche or whatever? If you're younger, maybe it was an R34, Skyline or, Corvette, or, if you're, I don't know, the average age of people on my channel, a 57 Chevy, I don't know, like whatever it was, didn't you have that on your wall, even though you may never or have never owned it, but you think it's cool, right? Like aspirations are super neat. Things that we cannot attain are super fun to like look at still. So, if somebody has something expensive, let them. It's their thing. It's cool. Somebody just gave me a hard time today about having something expensive, and I'm like, I don't know. I think it's cool. Don't you? Like, it's neat. I can't believe that anybody would spend more than X amount of dollars on a guitar. Anything over X amount of dollars is a waste. Anything, I would never, whatever. And, it's interesting. There's nothing wrong with being budget minded, obviously, and enjoying the budget side of whatever hobby, right? Like there's a lot of folks that really like budget guitars, which is really cool. And fortunately, we live in a world right now where there's a lot of them. So if you like a budget guitar, that's really cool, because that's good, because there is good in that, I guess, because there's a lot of choices, right? There's tons of instruments that are budget. Super chat from Don. He says, the absolute best part of making guitars and pickups is seeing how someone else is going to use them. Unexpected creativity rocks. Yeah, and that's an interesting point that you bring up there, Don. Thank you for the super chat. Because, yeah, a lot of times when we understand what other people are doing, we'll learn a thing, right? We'll be like, oh, hey, wait a minute. I never even thought about using it like that. I'm going to try that, right? Which I think is super fun. I think that's really fun, and looking at it as learning other opportunities. Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to look for Farrah Fawcett and Bruce Lee. Yeah, right? Yeah, it makes sense. All right, there you go. Y'all are talking about, we got Samantha Fox. Who do we got? A Kiss poster? Okay. Daisy Duke. Ooh, Skyline. More than one Farrah Fawcett. Interesting. I'm 186 centimeters tall. Yeah, see, I have no idea how much that is. I would have to, it's interesting. A lot of times you can just go like this. I'll show you something really, really cool. This is really cool. How much is 186 centimeters in inches? 73.2. Super easy. That's all you got to do. No big deal. Like that took how many seconds? Super easy. Pretty soon, somehow that'll be like imprinted in your brain and you'll be able to just know it. Whew. I hope not. Yeah. So budget guitars. So, the cool part about it is, like I was saying, there's a lot of guitars that are budget, which is really cool for those that care about the absolute utility of an instrument, right? And you can get that, right? So that's kind of how it is with budget stuff. You can get a thing that does the thing. So it plays, it makes sounds. It probably does it relatively well these days, right? And that's fine. And if that's something that you really like, that's cool. Just understand that there are going to be other people who justifiably want more than the basic utility of the thing, right? And what everybody finds as a creative addition to that is different. So if somebody wants to pay extra for binding, if somebody wants to pay extra for a fancy maple top, if somebody wants to pay extra for gold hardware, if somebody wants to pay, a bound neck or maybe some exotic material, does it functionally do anything different? In the grand scheme of things, probably not much. Now, we could argue that certain features do add some functions, right? Like, locking tuners and whatever, right? Like, and you got to pay more for that stuff. So there is some utility that you can buy, right? There is a level of performance that you can buy. And when I don't mean skill, I mean performance. So a more stable neck because it has carbon fiber in it, for example. That's buying some performance. It's not necessarily a beauty thing. It's not necessarily a skill thing. However, when you buy performance like that, a lot of times you can more easily develop skill because you're worrying less about the instrument itself. So there is value in that stuff. But when it comes to there's a lot of other things that are less tangible than that, that people want to spend money on, right? A lot of folks will give people a hard time about brand legacy. Well, you're just buying the name. Dang right I am. Absolutely. Why? Because said product has been around for over 100 years, whatever it is. In fountain pens, it's Mont Blanc. In knives, what would you say? Probably Buck or there's a bunch of stuff there. Benchmade is a big one. A lot of because Benchmades are, in my opinion, sort of really expensive for what they are. But what do you get with that? You get a really good warranty. They'll sharpen it for free for life. There's some value built into the name. And the same thing with Gibson or Fender or PRS or any of these more expensive brands. The brand legacy is not nothing, right? It's a feeling. It's a feeling. And when you are buying an instrument to be creative, now we could buy any number of instruments to be utilitarian. Any pocket knife with an edge on it will cut paper or whatever. Like it will open an Amazon box, right? Beyond that, what we're buying is a feeling because we enjoy the thing. We enjoy the feeling. And so a lot of that stuff can be intangible to people who don't understand it. So for example, when you buy a Gibson, people joke about the smell, but that's a real thing, man. It's part of the experience. When people buy a premium product and it comes with, let's say it comes with a challenge coin, it comes with a certificate of authenticity, it comes with a bunch of case candy. That has nothing to do with the tone. I know it has nothing to do with the tone, but it's the experience. It's the overall experience of the thing. It feels special. Things that make things feel special don't make things feel special for everyone, but for the things that, for the people that it does make them feel special, they really love that. And that's an intangible thing to some people. But there's value in it for those that get it, right? So if you don't get it and you just like a guitar that functions as a guitar, that's okay. It's totally fine. But I would suggest you do two things. One, first of all, allow others who find value in other things other than what you find value in, i.e. binding, brand names, whatever it is, to do that. And instead of giving them crap about it, ask them why. Learn something. Ask them why. Why do you spend X amount of dollars for that guitar when this other one will do or is just as good as? Well, there's a few reasons. One, I like how this feels. Well, I hate how that feels. Well, I'm not you. I like how the brand is represented with this and this and that. And I like this guitar player. And he inspired me to play. And this is a signature model and whatever. I don't buy signature models. I don't want anybody else's name on my guitar. Well, you know what? Your name has Gibson on it. Your guitar has Gibson on it. Your name has Fender on it. Your guitar has Harley Benton on it. Those are all people's names. Okay. So, yeah. Super fun. I like to think about that. Y'all are talking about what ladies you had on your wall. Case candy and stickers are a really nice touch that I personally really appreciate, as is a handwritten note from a seller. If it's a handmade thing, I'm buying. You know, it's funny you say that, Don, because we do that. I put a handwritten note in everything that goes out the door, pretty much. And I don't know if anybody cares. I like to do it, so that's why I do it. Can you imagine how boring it would be if everything was the same? Exactly. I get so annoyed when I hear people trash Gibson quality control. We're getting there. We are getting there. Let's see. Yeah, it's just a silly way to spend life. You know, hating on other people's stuff that's expensive. Chances are, deep down, you want that thing too. You just don't want to admit it. If I was to call you up right now and be like, hey, I got this Gibson Les Paul over here. Do you want it? You'd be like, no, I hate expensive things. That's not true. You hate that I have it and you don't. Be honest with yourself. Because the bottom line is, it doesn't matter how much noise you make about it. It doesn't matter how much time you waste thinking about it. You know, the amount of mental energy you have in one day, and then you like devoted 40 minutes in some forum post or some YouTube comments about how much you hate this Gibson or whatever. You just wasted a bunch of life, dude. It's like a whole percentage of your life. Those expensive things are still going to exist, and people are going to still make them. People are still going to buy them, and they're still going to sell every one they make. For the most part, for example, now we mentioned like the Kirk Hammett V probably was an anomaly in this, but for the most part, like all that really expensive custom shop stuff sells out in minutes. Somebody wants it. It's going to keep doing that whether you waste time thinking about it or not. Pretty fun. Let's see. Okay, so somebody just mentioned Gibson quality control. This is something I think that guitar players need to stop thinking about. Texas Toast Guitars is actually, I'd sell it and buy a bunch of Epiphones. Oh, man. Oh, that's funny. So, Matt, you actually were partially inspired this video today too, because of your video yesterday. I was actually watching that video when you called me, and I was like, this is weird. I have like Matt's voice coming out of the computer, and it's also coming out of my phone. Let me pause that. So I stopped talking to you. Oh, it was in my earbuds. So then I stopped talking to you. As soon as I hung up the phone with you, my earbuds started playing you talking again out of the computer. It was really funny. It was really a weird thing. Anyway, you're part of the inspiration for this video as well as Metal Complex, the knife video guy. Okay, the next point that I want to talk about that I think guitar players need to stop doing, and I think Matt would probably agree with me on this in some form or fashion. We need to stop setting unrealistic expectations for quality. So let's dive into this a little bit. Okay, so we want our guitars to be good, right? We want them to be nice. We wanted them to be what we expected when we buy them. But what does that mean? What do we expect? So let's parse this out just a little bit. You can have something made by a machine, or you can have something made by hand, but you can't have both. Okay? So when you use a machine to make something, theoretically, the machine process, now I'm using very specific words here because we're going to talk about this. The machined process these days can be very precise and very replicatable. Okay? A hand process cannot. Even if it's a very skilled craftsman, there will be aspects of it that will resemble a handmade product. So what do you want? Do you want something clinically perfect as is made by a machine? Or do you want something handmade with some character that has some handmade character to it? Because you cannot have both unless you are willing to pay for the time that it takes for a handmade product to have the precision of a machine. Because the only difference between those two things is time. Time developing the skill over the last however many decades it took the guy to get that good to make it as good as he is a machine. Take my pickups, for example. Okay, my pickups are very consistent. Winding by hand, but they're very consistent. Why? Because I've done, 12,000 of them by now. So what you're paying for is the last decade, not today, or not the materials, but the knowledge and the experience of the last decade to get that consistency. Or do you want it done on a machine, for example, a plecked guitar, for example, or a CNC'd body or a CNC'd neck for consistency, right? You really can't have both unless you pay for the extra time that it takes a person to do it by hand to the extent that a machine can do it, because there's a huge delta in there unless the time is paid for. So either way, you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for something that's perfect with a machine because you have to buy the machine, or you're going to pay for the time to get it that good. Now, no matter what guitar is made on a machine, so let's take a Gibson or a Fender or a Level 1 Texas Toast, for example. Not just because a guitar is made on a CNC machine doesn't mean that it's going to be perfect, because not every action, every operation to build that guitar is done by a machine. So just because you buy a Gibson that comes from the Gibson factory, or just because you buy a Fender that comes out of the Fender factory, it doesn't mean that it's going to be perfect, because only a small percentage of the operations that it takes to make that guitar are done on a machine to the precision that you would expect a machine to do. This is not an iPhone, right? Like when you have robots build an iPhone, everything is so precise that it's just super replicatable. But that's not how a guitar works. A human takes a block of wood, and depending on it depends on the process, but sometimes they will cut it out on a bandsaw, then they will put it into the CNC machine to cut down on waste, and then the CNC machine will come out, and then they will do a bunch of sanding, and they will do a bunch of stuff, and if there's an imperfection in the finish, it has nothing to do with the CNC machine, because that was on step 3. We're over here on step 45, and there's a piece of dust in the paint, or there's a sand scratch, or there's a something, because only a couple of processes to get it to that point were actually done on a machine that was done to the precision that you would expect 0.003 of an inch or whatever, right? So, to have expectations that a guitar would be perfect every time, unless you're willing to pay for it, because there is production and then there is handmade custom to the extent that you would expect, right? So, and that's what you pay for. So you take, for example, a Texas Toast guitar. Let's take a Texas Toast Level 1. The body may be cut out on a machine, partially, but then everything after that is still done by hand. And if the machine precision of that instrument, when you get it, I have a Level 2, so I know that the body was cut out on a CNC machine, but I know that everything else after that was done by hand. I can see the handmade quality of the handmade parts, and I can see the machine quality of the machine parts, and the overall of it is an extremely high quality, extremely consistent instrument. But it's all in your expectations. So just because, if you buy a Fender or a Gibson or a Squier or a PRS or a PRS SE, that comes out of a factory, this is not a guitar copy machine, right? It's not just they put a blank piece of paper in there and they hit start and the thing comes out the other side and it's the same perfect thing every time. That's not it. Humans do the majority of those actions to make that instrument do what it's supposed to do and the quality that it's supposed to, that it's supposed to do. And so there is a lot of handwork done. And so just understand that. Just understand that you know, every guitar is going to have more hand finished. This is something I just think about this very specifically. Every guitar that you buy, if you add it up on 2 sheets of paper, the number of hand done operations is going to exceed the number of machine operations for the most part in most factories. You know, you could probably really get crazy with that. You know, like you start thinking about PRS and Martin, and they actually use a robot to paint guitars and stuff. But like most brands don't do that. So, you know, you buy a Fender, a guy painted it, right? You buy a Texas Toast, Chris painted it, right? So, for the most part, the hand operations are going to outweigh the machine operations. So do not expect that an instrument is going to show up to you and be an absolute copier paper of another instrument, and it's going to be 100% perfect. Now, what is passable is largely set by the manufacturer, not by you. And so if you get a guitar and it's got, you know, a little rubbing compound on an edge, or if it's got, I don't know, I got a Gibson one time that had like you could tell where there was like a little edge on the binding where the file went. And I was like, oh, that's kind of disappointing. And then I was like, oh, actually, that's kind of neat that somebody did that by hand. And then I just took my fingernail and I went like that, and it was gone. You know what I mean? So I didn't flip out about it. I didn't post all over the internet for a week that the quality control sucked. I was just like, it's really neat. I wonder what the guy's name was that did that. That's pretty cool that somebody did that job. The other thing is that setup is not quality control. Just going to let that sit for a second. Guitar setup has nothing to do with quality control. Let me say it again. Okay. When you get a guitar from the store, and it is a store-bought guitar that has not been built bespoke for you, those instruments are made within certain parameters. They are not set up for you. So, and they also are subject to the environment that the retailer subjects them to before you see it. So, at Gibson, at Fender, they will have specs that they will leave the factory with. And typically, a nut, for example, will be too high. Typically, it'd be 25, 30 thousandths, which is too high. It really needs to be about 15, right? But that's because they don't know what you play. What if it's too low and all of a sudden you have to spend $150 and have a new nut put in it? You wouldn't like that. So it's too high. The action on a Fender is somewhere around 2 millimeters. Not 2 millimeters. Yeah. Which is way too high, in my opinion. But that's how they come. That's not quality control. It's because they expect you as an individual who is an artist or claims to be, wants to make this instrument his own, a tool for his creativity. Therefore, they give you the freedom to have the room on the nut to cut it how you want, to have the action how you want, to set everything up how you want, and be creative with that instrument, right? Therefore, the fact that you get a guitar from somewhere and the action's a little high and it needs 30 minutes worth of work to make it right is not a bad quality control situation. It's just not. And if you think so, you're just wrong. Unless let's say you call Texas Toast and you'd be like, hey, included in the purchase of my instrument, is it possible for you to put these strings on it, have this, 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 and this, and this? And they may tell you no. They may say, no, it's going to come to this standard. Like I know, for example, I want to say Matt goes for like 60 thousandths on his string height, right? He may set it up right there. I want to say Chris does nuts at like, I don't know, 15 thousandths, something like that. And that's probably acceptable to most people, you know, so that's pretty cool. Now you might say, hey, if I throw you an extra $50, can you do this, this, and this to make it to me, you know, bespoke to me before it leaves the house? And chances are I don't know what the dollar amount is. It might be $100. It might be, I don't know, but chances are for a dollar amount, they would make that happen for you. But that is the real expectation. That's what the expectation should be when you buy an instrument when it comes to guitar setup. The guitar setup is my setup. My guitar setup is my setup. That's why when I play your guitar, I'm like, I don't really like how this is set up. I like how mine is set up. So they can't read your mind. They don't know how you play. They don't know any of that stuff. So they kind of just put it in the middle and let you deal with it. So that is the thing. Now, we start talking about, you know, sharp fret ends and stuff like that. That could come down to the environment that the guitar was in before it was sold to you. If you go buy a guitar, and I've done the research on this, if you go to Guitar Center, try this. If you go to Guitar Center, unless you have a really good one, there are some good ones, but mostly there isn't. My local one, I tracked one particular instrument because it was way up on the top shelf. You know, and it's one that somebody's probably not going to buy. It was a SG, and it was a little kind of a wonkier color and stuff. So I figured it'd be there for a while. Well, it came in and into the Guitar Center. And so I was like, oh, this is a pretty cool guitar. I'm going to look at it, played it and stuff. Oh, it's pretty nice. I went back like 3 weeks later to grab some strings, and that guitar was still there. And I pulled it down off the wall, and I started, and the fret ends were sharp, the strings were rotted, the action was all wonky because the truss rod was in the wrong place. That guitar was subjected to an environment that did not reflect properly on the manufacturer of the guitar, but poorly on the retailer. So just know that that's what happens. So you make sure that you blame the right person. You bought that guitar, don't get on the internet and be like, Gibson sucks. Get on the internet and be like, yo, don't even get on the internet. Just stop doing that and take it back and be like, yo, this is out of spec for what Gibson says it is, and I bought it from you. Fix it. Like, hold people accountable. Let's see. Matt says, oftentimes what happens is people ask how much it would cost and then add a bunch of extras, assuming it's the same money. That is exactly what happens a lot of times. It's totally true. I have a bunch of Gibsons and none have had QC issues, but after playing them, they definitely have scratches, dings, etc. Far worse than what people complain about. 100% I agree. In fact, one of your Gibsons used to belong to me, Hat Mike. And that when I bought that guitar, because I sold you that, when I bought that guitar, originally it showed up from Sweetwater with a broken top brace. And instead of getting on the internet and complaining about it and doing all that garbage, I just called up my dude and be like, yo, send me another one. And he sent me another one. And that's the one you have. You have the replacement. No big deal. No reason to talk about it. No reason to talk about quality control because it wasn't a quality control thing. It was just damage. It just happens. Stuff just happens. My SG Junior had a little spot on the same thing. It was like a file mark. And I just did the same thing. I just had some emery paper or something. And I just went, it was fixed. Like, whatever, you know, it's not that big a deal. My custom shop, Gibson showed up with, some finish checking already. But the day I got it, it was like 25 degrees outside. Life. That's what happens, you know? Yeah. That's what happens. You know, that's just one of those things. So that is setting unrealistic expectations for quality. This one I like to be real careful with. Number 4, I like to be real careful with this, so we won't talk about this too long. This is just I want people to kind of be more open-minded, not think whatever you want to think. Just stay out of my comment section with this. Using the hobby to force their political views on others. So oftentimes, many people, for various reasons, will choose a certain country of manufacture over another. Totally cool. Totally get it. I do the same. I live in the United States, so I try to find stuff that's made here. I really try to find stuff that's made by smaller businesses and support, you know, folks like Texas Toast. Like, they want to keep their lights on. So that's why I own 2 of their guitars. It's an excellent example, right? What I don't do is spend a bunch of time in the comments talking about political views and supporting blah, 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 because country of origin, country of origin, country of origin. There's actually a lot of really cool stuff made in a lot of cool countries, all over the world. And so, and the other thing you got to understand too is, in a global audience situation, over 50% of our viewers aren't from the United States, which is kind of neat, actually. I think it's really cool. So just know that when you are interacting with somebody, I don't know where they're from, and they don't care what I think, and they don't care where I live, and they don't care how I feel about where my guitar was made, because they're not from here. They might think about something completely different. Their metrics for making a decision about where they buy their instrument could be totally different. I mean, I have my reasons, right, for supporting the businesses that I do, or not supporting certain businesses that I do. But, you know, it doesn't matter, because somebody else might feel some other way. I don't care. Like, I don't care where you choose to buy or not buy your instruments, or your guitar gear, or your fountain pen, or your pocket knife, or whatever. Don't care. I just want to know about it. I want to understand it. I want to learn about it. Now, that being said, I do not support certain brands because I don't like the way they do business. But I'm sure you do the same. It's just kind of part of it. Yeah. And that's all we'll say about that. But just don't be a jerk about it on the interwebs. Nobody cares where their iPhone comes from. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Exactly. Okay. Number 5. Don't gatekeep. A lot can fall under this one. The one that I see the most is, I've been playing for X amount of years. I've been working on guitars for X amount of years. My dad's uncle's wife's cousin's brother was the brother of the guy who sharpened pencils for the guitar tech for Glass Tiger in 1984. And you're like, I don't freaking care, dude. I don't. Like, I don't know how that makes you better than me. So, you know, now if it was White Lion, maybe, you know, I suppose. Night Ranger, now we're really talking. But, you know, I don't know. I don't care who sharpened the lead singer of Glass Tiger's pencil. I just don't. When you consider yourself an expert on something, and you're not, it's really disrespectful to people that are. I don't consider myself to be an expert on this stuff. I don't at all. There's just so much stuff to learn about it, right? Like, and honestly, there's like so many ways to skin a cat. Matt said something really interesting in a video yesterday. He said one of the things that he does when he makes his videos is he just shares how he does it. And he shares how he's chosen to do it. Does that make it the only way? No, there's millions of ways to build a guitar. But he has a really neat method, and it works, and his product is good. So that's all that matters. It's cool. If you do it a different way, it doesn't make him wrong. And it doesn't actually, well, sometimes it does make you wrong. But there's no reason to worry about any of that, I don't think. And just know that everybody's always learning, you know? And the other thing I think people need to know. Oh, hang on. I got to read this comment. I just got a YouTube comment from a guy who claims to have invented the conical radius fretboard. He wasn't amused that I said it was a solution looking for a problem. I'd be interested to know. His name wasn't Dan Aykroyd, was it? That'd be funny. The conical radius fretboard started out as a skit on Saturday Night Live by a conehead. That'd be awesome. Yeah, I get those all the time. I get that stuff all the time. I'm an electrical engineer, so I agree with you. Oh, I don't care if you didn't. And so just know that it's pretty easy to tell somebody on the internet that you're awesome. Doesn't really matter. And the other thing I think people need to understand too is that, and I think Matt would also agree with me on this for the most part, is that when it comes to the gatekeeping thing, that we are all nobody. We're all nobody. This little channel I have, I mean, we have 104,000 subscribers or something. That is small peanuts in the grand scheme of folks that make videos about YouTube or about guitar. I'm nobody. You're nobody. The fact that you get in somebody's comment section, not mine or anybody else's, I don't care, and is like, thinks that you're gonna like turn the ship with a comment. It's just a weird way to live. So I would just say, figure out ways to make positive contributions to the community, instead of trying to be better than it. Because it doesn't work out very well. It doesn't work out very well. A lot of times it'll end up on my greatest hits on Facebook, and people don't like that. So yeah, I think this is fun. It was just fun to sit around and chat about it, because I love the community that we built here. I love the fact that everybody loves guitar stuff. And I know that for the most part, everybody in the comments today, well, I've been looking. In fact, we'll take a scroll back through and just see if there's any fun stuff. I love the fact that everybody is in this just to have fun, And so I kind of did this because I knew that there would be random people who don't normally watch our stuff who would find this video and be like, I'm like, well, see, point made. Let's see really quick. I'm going to scroll back through here before we get going today. Let's scroll back a little bit further. People talking about quality control. Okay, I saw this. I find it laughable about many people bitching about a guitar being trash because the setup was too high, too low for them out of the box. Yeah, that whole setup out of the box thing is dumb. It's just dumb. There's lots of stuff that's not set up out of the box, right? Like your lawnmower isn't set up out of the box, right? You have to put the fuel in it, put the oil in it, and then go set the height for your yard. If you got pissed because you went outside and it scalped a hole in your yard, would you go blame John Deere? No, you wouldn't. I would actually blame your landscaper for not fixing that high spot. But I'm just saying, you blame the wrong person, right? There's all kind of stuff like that. There's all kinds of stuff like that where it doesn't even make sense. This car's stupid. Ford sucks because I can't reach the pedals. Well, they gave you adjustable ones. You hit the button and fix it. Let's see. A guitar that spends any amount of time in a container on a ship. Absolutely. Yeah. You have to think about the journey. That's the other thing too. It's interesting, right? Like, and this is where you also kind of have to look into some of the brands and really understand them. For example, some of the import stuff, for example, like Reverend, right? They take them out of the box once they get here because they're made in Korea. They take them out of the box. They get here and they do a middle of the road setup on them, right? And then the other thing is there's a lot of brands, Fender Custom Shop, for example, who limit their dealers, right? And I would also imagine, I bet that's UPS, and I could have given that package to UPS. Who is it? Just ask him what's up. We are, our fence project is starting today. Yeah, we got the fence people are here today, taking down the old one, and getting ready for the new one. Well, what's left of the old one. So yeah, and Zeba, the puppy, has had some hip pain the last couple of days. He's growing so fast and etc. I talked to a veterinarian about it last night, and I'm gonna talk to another one on Thursday just to make sure he's okay. But yeah. So anyway, he's going through some. I really like the point to be positive. I'm going to make a point to drop negatives and focus on what I like over the next year. That's kind of what I've been doing too. Yeah. And that's why I like to talk about this stuff. Think about this. What would we talk about if we were sitting here having a beer? Like if you and I met on a Friday night and we were hanging out talking, first of all, we'd be like, hey, what guitar do you play? What guitar do I play? And then that would last for like 10 minutes, right? And then we would probably sit around and being like, oh yeah, I love this YouTube video. I love that, whatever. Oh, that comment the other day was hilarious. We would have those conversations, and that's what I view this, right? It's not about bagging on anybody. It's not making fun of anybody. It's not any of that. It's me and you would sit around and talk about this. Whoever you are, like I don't know how many people are watching this right now. 116 people are watching this right now. So, any one of you and I would be sitting around and be like, oh yeah, that was funny. Now I wouldn't make that comment. You know what I would do in this situation? I would do that instead, right? Like that, we would just sit around and talk about it. And that's what we're doing right now. Any advice to get out of the intermediate level, but where I play the same 3 songs and just noodle? Don't ask me, because that's exactly what I do. Ask somebody else in the comments. I am a noodler. And you've heard my videos before. I play the same thing all the time. Yeah, absolutely. TTGs are super cool, just can't afford one. So here's what I would recommend. If you really want one, take an appraisal of the gear that you have. I'm not even joking a little bit. Take an appraisal of the gear that you have. And if you can sell a couple of guitars and maybe save one, they do have a firm for the 12-month thing, all that. Set a goal to save for one before they get too expensive. Because it's 2024. Stuff's getting expensive. And it blows my mind what you can buy a Texas Toast guitar for. So and I would say this to anybody. Small maker guitars, if they're good, like these Texas Toast things are worth saving for. I think it's worth having a small batch, small business custom made guitar kind of deal where you know, like for example, if you order a Challenger, you can pick the color, you know, you can pick if you want P90s or humbuckers in it and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So it's not a fully bespoke guitar, but you can pick some options, which is really cool. And I would say it makes it more yours. And people will go on and on and on and on about, well, I'm not going to buy a Texas Toast or insert any other small batch, small brand guitar here because resale value. First of all, I think that's stupid because if you buy something that you want, you're not going to sell it. So it doesn't matter. None of my Texas Toast guitars are for sale. I am not flipping them. And at the value that they're at right now, there's no reason to flip them. They're so good that there's no reason to flip them. So just buy it. Just get it. And the other thing is, if it's sort of bespoke to you, you pick the color, you pick the pickups, you know, and you waited 12 weeks or whatever to get it, then there's some commitment in that thing and you love that thing. Before it even ever gets to your house, you love it because you were like part of the process and it was a thing. Like that experience is cool. And I would say it is worth doing. It's the same thing with any other hobby. You know, I'm actually in the process right now of communicating with a guy about a custom made knife. And I've got a couple of small maker fountain pens that I think are really neat because I talked to the guy. Like I literally picked them out. You know what I mean? And that's just so cool to have that story with it. We talked earlier about intangible value in an instrument and connection with it. That's what makes it happen. And so I would say, and I know that some people would call me a shill for Texas Toast guitars because, you know, my pickups are random and stuff and they're my friends, but that experience, if it's them or anybody else, although I don't know if you're going to get anybody else for that kind of dollars, definitely try it. I saw a video where the guy said, comment like you would speak in person. Yes, absolutely. Oh, and I do that too all the time. I challenge people. I'm like, you know where to find me. I have said this to people that are really ugly online. I'll be like, look, I'm really easy to find. I would be happy to have an in-person Zoom conversation with the camera on. If we can't do it in person, I'll do it over Zoom with the camera on. Nobody. Because they know. Yep, super fun. Yeah, I'm gonna probably have another Texas Toast here pretty soon. I'm really into them. I really dig them a lot. Let's see what else. Fence project, making a new telly. With the stack of lumber that's in my front yard right now, I could make a lot of fence post tellies because I actually have partially the old fence laying in a pile, and then of course all the lumber for the new fence laying in a pile too. So yeah, super cool. Anyway, you guys are awesome. Thanks for hanging out. This has been a super fun conversation to have. And I hope everybody has a great week. In my humble opinion. Exactly. That's funny. You guys are awesome. We will see you probably Thursday night for our live stream that Leslie and I do together. Until then, I hope you all have a great week and I hope you play some guitar.